Okay, hello everyone. I'm Yuki from Logos Academy, and I'm a chemistry teacher at my school. First of all, I would like to thank CEL for providing us with so many different opportunities to learn from professors in MIT or even teachers from different places. Those experiences are very inspiring and it's really encouraged me to change my learning and teaching strategies. Okay, next slide, please. Next one. Okay. Okay, so let's take a look of, oh, the previous one. Yeah. Okay, let's take a look of what we have done in our junior form science class. During my first visit to MIT, we have got a chance to work on Mickey Mickey and also Scratch. And we find it quite interesting. That's why we have introduced our first Mickey Mickey project in our junior form science lesson. Um, During the lesson, students have to find out how to connect the Mickey and the computer in a closed circuit, and they have to determine which materials are conductors or insulators. And then finally, they have to build a prototype of a joystick which will be used by people with certain disabilities. And we can observe that students are quite enjoyable working on the projects. And the good thing is they can really experience the design thinking process in the projects. Next slide. So for our senior form students, we cannot leave them out, right? So this year, I've introduced a STEM activities in my chemistry class. Students have to apply what they have learned in my lessons and to perform some calculation because we are doing STEM. So we have to involve math, right? So they will perform some calculations and measure the reactants they need. And finally, they will produce an airbag to save the eggs falling from the table. Just to mimic the fire rescue airbag used by the firefighters. And I find that these kinds of activities can really promote the learning motivation and involvement of the students. And I'm so excited for this kind of activities because we as science teachers can actually do STEM in our classroom, since I always have an impression that it is so difficult to integrate STEM into our own subjects if we don't know how to program or how to build a robot. But I've read the book during the summer vacation, and it's totally changed my belief in STEM. It's said that the main purpose of doing STEM is to help students to develop their problem-solving skills and learn by error and trials, and allow them to experience the design thinking or the engineering design process instead of we just giving them a lot of the programwares or the computers or ask them to do the program. So in conclusion, we don't actually need the very high technology stuff or the very expensive instruments to do STEM. The only thing we need is the problem aroused by science, because science is the most important thing in STEM because it's this first letter, right? So we just need the problems, and then we have to give the student the time and the space to develop a solution to that problem without giving them too many instructions. This is the key points. Having a projects with the instruction is very important. And this is what I have done in my lessons after attending the program organized by CEL. And it's time for my colleagues to share what she has learned from CEL. Thank you.
Hi. May I have the next slide, please, Anjali? Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Patricia from Logos. I have participated the leadership program, leadership workshop of Compassionate System last year in Jakarta. And one of the point that struck me very deeply, it's called the letter of connectedness. It's more about how open you are for self-awareness. So if you tend to be more self-aware, you tend to connected with your own self. But on the other hand, if you tend not to be able to or unwilling to open up yourself, you will tend to get stuck. And in other words, emotional disconnect. And the worst thing is, next slide, please. The worst thing is in this situation, if you tend to be very emotionally disconnected all the time, you will tend, you will prone to have mental disorder. So I think this whole message is very powerful. So I want to bring this back to my class. Next slide, please. So I started to do some check-in time for my psychology lessons. I started to do it in my Form 3 psychology lesson. And next slide, please. So in the beginning of the class, I show this to my students, and then I give them some time to think about which of these figures best represent you of how you're feeling today. So by doing this, I tend to, and actually I want to help them to build a habit of, get connected with your own feelings, get connected to be more self-aware of where you are, how you feel and stuff. So after been doing this for several times, I think the students they enjoyed it actually. So they will pick the figure and then they will share with their neighbors how they feel, and don't have to go into very details, but just to, get in touch with your own feeling and your own self. So I do encourage, teachers could also do something as simple as this in the beginning of the lesson. I understand that we don't have a lot of time, so actually this is the end of my sharing. Thanks, Anjali.